this evening. Thank you for joining us for Parent University on elementary literacy. Thank you to our guests who are here in person, and this is also being recorded for families that weren't able to attend with us tonight. We have a great team of literacy specialists from our district here today. We've got Dr. Robert Millen, who is our assistant superintendent, soon to be superintendent. Lindsay Hooper is our director of humanities. Myself, Jen Kelly, principal at CES. Caitlin Imparato is our K through 1 interventionist at Chatham Elementary School. Monomoy is a first grade teacher at Chatham Elementary School, and Emily Tuccio is a third grade teacher at CES, and also we have Mrs. Jordan is here as well, who works for the district. This evening, we really want to give you a better understanding of literacy and how we're teaching it at our schools across the district. We're going to explore literacy instruction in the classroom. We're going to allow you to handle some materials and experience what some of the instructional practices are that your students are having. And you'll learn about the programs we're utilizing, and we'll also give some suggestions on what you can do with your students at home.
I'm just going to also have Dr. Catone.
Oh, yes, oh, sorry, and Dr. Catone, Christy Catone is also here, our Harwich Elementary School.
Hi, Dr. Camp.
Nice to see you, and Dr. Camp.
And Dr. Camp.
We have
here.
more of us.
There's a lot of us here. Okay. So I'm actually going to kind of quickly go over. This night is able to be brought to us because we are a Title I school. And Dr. Millen, please feel free to jump in here. But as a Title I district, we receive federal funding that for a variety of reasons, for staffing, parental engagement, activities like this, professional development, and equitable services. Because we are a district which has high numbers of low-income students, we qualify for this funding, and we try to utilize it as much as possible.
Okay, so there's two types of title funding out there. One is like a district that does low numbers of students that have certain needs, poverty, students with disabilities, English language learners. But because our district has such high incidence of that, all of our kids qualify for the funding and the use of the funding. So in a couple of weeks, you'll get a survey. You'll get it yearly, but you get a survey out there. If you just get a chance to fill that out and inform us how you want us to use that funding, it would be a great help.
Okay, so just to give you a little bit of history, in 2019, as part of our curriculum reviews across the district, about every 6 to 8 years is ideal. We try to review the curriculum for a specific topic. In 2019, the district underwent a lot of work looking at our literacy programs, and this team developed some priorities in looking for a new program to use for literacy instruction. They wanted to make sure that it was a sequenced reading instructional program, that it was sequential and comprehensive writing program included with that, with explicit writing strategies and skills to be taught. And they wanted the materials to support instruction with both print and digital, with a comprehensive scope and sequence, and lots of opportunity for differentiation. And then for the implementation part of that, they wanted a lot of professional development over time for our teachers to really fine-tune the work they were doing with that program. Next slide, please. And through all of that work, American Reading Company's reading program was chosen. In 2021 is when we implemented that program. It was research-based. It provided explicit, systematic, differentiated instruction. It fosters a love of literacy at home and school, and it builds knowledge alongside literacy skills. So, worked really well. And see, these are some of the key components of the ARC program. There's ongoing assessment, leveled readers, differentiated instruction, and a home and school partnership. This evening, you'll learn a little bit more about this through with Mrs. Melanson, and myself, you'll have an opportunity to look at some of the books that we use in that program. You can go to the next slide. In 2021, when we began with the program, only 30% of our students at the beginning of the year were proficient in reading for their grade level, K through 4, at Harwich and Chatham Elementary School. By the end of the first year of our implementation of the program, that number rose to 50, almost 51% of our students. So we made huge gains within the first few years of implementation of the program. And since then, we've been adjusting and growing our program. The first couple of years, we saw exponential growth on the assessments associated with the program. But as staff and students became more deeply involved in the program, we started to have some questions about the delivery of phonics instruction, which is sound and letter correlations. So in 2024, after a lot of work with a lot of the members that are here tonight, we adopted the University of Florida Literacy Institute's program called UFly for phonics instruction in K through 2. And last year, we spent a tremendous amount of time working with Hill Literacy for ongoing professional development and how to best use that program to get the most benefits for our kids. We adopted and trained all of our literacy teachers on how to use DIBELS data, which is a form of assessment, to monitor student progress. This year, we're in year 2 of our UFly implementation. We continue to use ARC reading, and we also have picked up a new diagnostic program, which is called iReady. It replaces MAP that we have used in the past, and provides a normed assessment for grade levels across the nation. Our next steps, because we're always learning, always growing, is that we are really working at writing and how that impacts our students across disciplines. So that's to come. We started some of that work. But just to sort of show you some success, this is how our students are doing right now at both Chatham and Harwich Elementary School. This is our district, our reading scores at the middle of the year, and you can see that we far surpass the nation, and we're slightly above Massachusetts. So our schools are doing something right. It's good. We're really excited about that. So literacy, cornerstone of education. We have an incredibly devoted staff that works so hard, and they're always pushing the envelope, and you'll hear that and see that when you talk to some of our staff members tonight. We're thrilled to share what we have about learning and literacy and working with you to continue their growth. So now, without further ado, we're going to go to different areas where our wonderful teachers are going to take you through some of the elements of our program. Okay.
You want to start in the back corner?
Yeah, do we want to start at this
Does that
one?
make sense?
Okay. Does that make sense, Mrs. Blanza?
When I would like to
Thank you for you. And because we're going through a day in an elementary school classroom, if you need a snack break, they are in the back, okay?
Oh, amazing. Thank
right.
you.
You guys feel free to sit, stand, whatever, and have a seat. So I'm going to walk you through this little presentation quickly, and then I'm going to show you a couple things that you can do with your kids at home. This is a guide to improving reading skills at home. It just tells in the front about how important reading is and that you guys are your children's first teacher. So that reading at home is really, really important, but it can look really different depending on your child, and it doesn't have to look the same every night. So that's a really good thing to know. There's these tips here. These first tips are from Lindsay Kemeny, who wrote 7 Mighty Moves, which is research-based book all about the science of reading and how it translates into the classroom. She's very dynamic, and her tips are very user-friendly and easy to understand. So finding a consistent time, giving your undivided attention during that time to read with your kids. Using a pointer. This is really important, and this is different than past practice. There was a time where when we were reading with our kids where we didn't want them to use their finger, we wanted them just to track with their eyes, but now we realize that that finger is not only training them to track, but it's also making them pay attention to the word and the sounds of the word and put them together. So using that finger or some kind of a pointer is really, really important. Correcting mistakes immediately, and she gives a really good procedure for how to do that in a very objective way where your child isn't going to be like, I made a mistake. So if your child struggles with a word, you're going to point to the specific sound that they miss. So if it's like this, let's say the word lock. Let's say they go loke. Then you're going to go, oh, let's go back and take a look at that word. I'm hearing something different. My turn. K. You try. And then they would go back and say it correctly, and then you move on with the story. So it's very quick, not stressful. They're getting the instruction, but it's not a big, I got it wrong kind of moment. Do heart words, the tricky words. We used to call them sight words. Those are words that don't follow a pattern. At the very back of this, you're going to see many teachers will send home the lesson of the week for UFly, and it will say what heart words that we're working on. They're irregular words right here. And it will have a heart underneath the part that you have to memorize by heart because it doesn't make its expected sound. So like in this one, who, well, we would expect W to say wh, not who. So that's why it's a hard part. So kind of you can talk about those words with your kids when you...
Makes sense.
And they might encounter in some of their reading some heart words that we haven't taught them yet. So that would be kind of the way that you handle it when they run into those words. Well, let's look, some of these letters are making unexpected sounds, and you would go and point out, what those sounds were, and that's a word that you have to memorize by heart.
Okay.
Moving on. Read, model, read again. This is a 3-step fluency where you would read it, you model how it sounds, how a real person would read it. It should sound like conversation when you're reading. And then you would have them practice reading it that same way, making sure still that they're pointing at the words and that their voice matches their finger, which is really tricky because they'll point at the words, but they're not always pointing where they should be pointing. So you really want to emphasize that your voice matches your finger or your pointer. Focus on decoding, not guessing. So we really want them to pay attention to the sounds and looking at the words in the beginning part of reading. Later, it will be, once they have all those decoding rules down and they know how to sound out a word and they can do it pretty fluently, then the focus moves more towards building vocabulary and comprehension. Not that we're not doing that while we're doing decoding, but the emphasis is definitely more on that later on when they get those basic reading skills. Progress over perfection, have grace with yourself, and focus on small daily steps rather than a big overhaul. Build background knowledge. It's really important when you're reading a book. You want to take time to talk about it before you read it, kind of make sure that they have familiarity with that topic. And this is the book that those were taken from, 7 Mighty Moves by Lindsay Kennedy. These are the types of books that you'll see coming home in your child's reading bag. These are the decodables, and they have predictable, they're only going to be words that we've taught them all those sound concepts. Occasionally there'll be a heart word in there that they haven't had that you might have to stop and explain. So these are things you can't expect that they're going to sit and totally read them independently. They may need some help from time to time and a little bit of supervision. So that's one kind of decodable. There's these that are a little bit longer. And then we have the decodable passage that you get from UFly. And this would be coinciding with the lesson that they've been taught for the week. Okay, you should get 2 of these every week. And these they will have read in class with us. Usually they practice it. We do it whole class, and then often they'll have another time where they're reading it with a partner. So there should be plenty of home practice, plenty of school practice, so that when they get to you, they should be pretty much ready to read that. So those are the decodables. Other books that they can take are the leveled text, which can look like this. These will not have all words that they can sound out and read themselves. So these will be something that they will have to read with a parent for the most part, so that when they get stuck, you'll be there to help them problem solve those words. And then these are the ARC readers, which are a combination of leveled readers and predictable. Predictable is based more on pictures and repetition. So this is kind of what the science of reading, we're moving away from this. Not that it's bad, because any reading is good, but this is not going to teach them how to decode words. So you need to know that when you're picking these books. But the kids really enjoy them. They learn a lot
They
from
do.
them. They really enjoy them. I mean, the photos are great, and there's often, as you move up into the levels, there's lots of information there. But they're not going to teach them the decoding. So good to use, like, I always make sure that the kids have a decodable that they take home, and then they can take home one or two other books too. So they're getting that practice, but then they're also being exposed to different types of books and literature. And then there's the trade books or read-alouds, and we encourage reading aloud with kids so they can hear how reading really sounds. They can build vocabulary. These are great for building those comprehension skills and having those great conversations. And in here, it will tell you, about discussions that you can have before you read, while you read, and after you read, to really get the most out of those experiences. If a kid has a favorite book, read it over and over again. Like, that's really great for them. And constantly have lots of books on hand, or go to the library so that you can, they have opportunities to choose different things to read. So those are the different types of books, and it will tell you here, what should my child read? Well, you want them, if they're in the beginning stages of learning to read, we want phonics first. So we really want them to have practice with that decodable first. And then you can have the other reading experiences. Audiobooks are great, but you need to balance it out. Like, if you are driving in the car, audiobook is a great thing, especially if it shows the text that they can follow along with. Again, it's an opportunity to hear how reading should sound when you become a fluent reader. It's great for building vocabulary. This talks about asking questions when you read and making reading an experience. Anytime that you can connect a book to some kind of experience, like a special snack or going to a special place that they talked about in the book, going to the park or play date or whatever, that just makes reading even more meaningful to them. Other activities, incorporating writing and spelling into your routine, and this is really important. Letter formation is critical for reading development because it helps move letter recognition from short-term memory to long-term memory, which is really important in the process of reading. Correct, consistent, top-down stroke techniques. Always check your kids, because lots of kids go from the bottom up, and we want top-down. It builds those neural connections and is essential in both spelling and decoding. And phonemic awareness activities, which there are a bunch of fun and quick phonemic awareness activities that you can do at home with your kids. You can do them in the car. Some fun things to do. And then, at the very end, I've included a roll and read. Roll and read are great for those practicing the spelling rule of the week. You can also cut them up into flashcards and play games like My Pile, Not Your Pile, where any word that they read correctly goes into their pile, and any word that they have trouble with goes into your pile, and then they count. They like to always have the bigger pile than you. I mean, little fun things like that for the roll and reads. Really good practice. And then there's this home sheet. And this is a little tricky, but one of the really good things is the word chain. So I'm going to kind of just show you what that would look like. We use these for the UFly lessons in class. So make the word face. So you'd have them count out the sounds of face. Do it with me. A, face. So then we're going to put the sounds. A, and our rule has been, what's going to make that when we hear that long A sound? And they'll tell you because they've been talking about it all week, that it's going to be the C. And what makes the A say its name? The E. So they'll build their base word. And then you say, change the F to a P. And so they'll change it out to a P. Okay. Take a look at the word, point to the letters, sound it out in your head. On the count of 3, tell me what the new word is. There you go. So, yeah, so you can do that. You don't have to have magnetic letters to do that at home. You can do it with a whiteboard and marker. You can do it with pencil and paper. And they really enjoy doing that. It's like a game to them. So that's a really good, quick activity to do with them that will really help build those skills. And then with the sentences, those you can have them read the sentences, or you can dictate the sentences to them and have them write them, whatever you feel more comfortable. You don't have to do that, but if you're looking for something to, really help build those skills, those are some activities that you could do with them. Do you have any questions?
I did, but you answered it.
Ooh, that's exciting.
I was wondering if there are resources for parents for the master list of the heart words for the year or things like that. Like we have those amazing toolkits for the math program that we got that we can
Right.
be using, but it'd be great to not to just sit and drill our kids, but certain things just need to be memorized, right? So if we
Right.
have those lists that we could turn them into, I know you're giving them as we go along.
Right, but it would be good to have a whole list
would.
or even a set of cards that we send home. So that's
Just
what I'm
looking
gonna.
at ways, because you just want to use the same language you use. These are
Yes.
great, and we look at them every week. But the language piece of it, to connect the parents to the teachers. When
Right.
we're reading at home. Do you know what I'm saying? Of saying I don't know, what do you call E on the end of the word? Some schools call them kingy or magic-y. It'd be nice to just
Have that, but we thought of that too, that we'd like to kind of rework that sheet maybe over the summer so that it has the rule up at the
Yes.
top with some of that language in there, and maybe a little bit more directions on what we do.
Yeah,
with-
because I think a lot of us who grew up in this is being recorded, but in the 80s grew up in whole language and didn't learn phonics,
Yeah.
and we just know it, and then you realize oh, that's the reason I know that's a rule. So as parents, if we knew the language to help you to support our kids, that would be
Yeah,
really
I
great.
agree with you. It's
That's
coming
actually a
soon.
really good place where we can use some of that title funds to work over the summer
Yeah.
with some teachers and do that work for you.
That would be awesome.
You'll have it next year.
Yeah, great.
Is there an ability to access these online? Because they don't always come home.
They are online, actually, the UFly website, and I can send, if we get emails, I can send links for people, but they do all of the materials that we use, including the lessons, are available for anybody to look at and print out.
Okay.
So they have everything. They have these, they have the roll and reads, they have the heart words, all of it.
Yeah, you sent me the scope and sequence of the year. Remember we talked at
Yeah.
conferences of where it was. So yeah.
We're gonna move to the next section. Okay. We'll go
Thank
this way.
thank you.
I'm Corrado. I work at Chatham Elementary School as an interventionist, and so today I'm just at this station going to kind of guide you through one of our UFly phonics lessons, but also explain to you why each step is important in learning how to read. So as Dr. Kelly mentioned, we implemented UFly just last year. It stands for University of Florida Literacy Institute. That's where it was developed, and our district had noticed a gap in some phonics instruction instruction in our ARC curriculum and kind of some lacking foundational skills that were showing up in student assessments as well. So to mediate that, we implemented this explicit phonics program. It's evidence-based and it follows a specific scope and sequence that aligns with reading research. And so it focuses on phonics, which are the word reading skills. And our art curriculum covers a lot of the other literacy skills that are involved for reading, like the language comprehension and writing and those aspects. But this is a foundational skill program. And so since reading isn't a natural process for our brains, we do have to explicitly teach the students how to read. And so through the steps in these lessons, they're actually rewiring their brains and teaching them how to read. It's not a natural process like speaking is a natural process. So these lessons usually take about an hour, split over 2 different days. So for 30 minutes each day, they're getting the explicit phonics instruction, and some teachers have different styles or language or ways of delivering it, but the bones are the same across the district. So following that scope and sequence, everyone's getting what they need and nothing's being left out. So the first step of a lesson is the kids start with some phonemic awareness, and so they're learning to hear and identify and manipulate just the smallest units of sound. And so we'll start with some blending. So I'll give you an example and then I'll have you do some like the kids would do in the classroom. So I'll make the sounds and you're going to blend them into a word. So here are the sounds. Ish.
Fish.
Yes, good job.
What was the first sound?
Rush. Good job. And ship. Yeah, good, great. So blending is an important skill because when your child has mapped or remembered the different sounds that they're hearing, it's just going to make their decoding or their reading and their spelling so much more automatic. So after the blending, we go into a little segmenting drill, and these are pretty quick in the classroom too. So they're really only getting 4 words, and they're quickly learning how to break them down. And so when you're breaking down the words, that's really what's going to help them with their spelling, because when they hear the word, they can actually identify the individual sounds that they're hearing and then match those to what they're writing. So for this one, I will say the word and you'll try to make the sounds. So I'll give you an example. And we can do different motions for this. Some teachers do tapping of sounds. Some teachers do counting of sounds, more of like an arm sweeping to kind of build in some movement. So it's up to you, whatever you feel comfortable with. So if the word is shin, the students would sound it out. Sh, I, n. There are 3 sounds in shin. So I'll give you a word and let you try. Your word is shock. Perfect. And dash.
Dash.
Dash. Good. 3 sounds. Perfect. And so when they're able to isolate those smallest units of sound, again, that's really going to help with their reading, but also with their spelling. And so after that quick drill, we go into a visual drill, and this is where students are seeing letters, and they're identifying the letters, but they're also able to make the sound that the letter spells. So sometimes it could be on the screen. All of our UFly program comes with a digital component so that the slides are there and we can easily go through them. This is very low tech, but it can be low tech as well, so there's some flexibility. So when a student sees the letter either on the screen or on the card, they would tell you what it is and tell you what it spells. So they would say F spells. We like to say spells and not says, because the letters don't say sounds, so we just try to be particular and careful with our language. So F spells. See if I can give you one to try. So you can tell me the letter first. Good.
Spells.
Perfect.
I spells it.
Perfect. And so we would really build automaticity, so we want them to know them quickly. And so in this step, they're building that connection between the visual of the letter and the sound that it makes. They're mapping it in their brains. And after that, we do an auditory drill, and this is where the students are hearing the sounds and then they're writing the ways that they know how to write the sounds. So this is important because this is where they're mapping the sounds to the symbols. And I know Mrs. M reviewed the kind of like the strokes and the handwriting components that we look for, but in this step, they're seeing the letter on their board, they're hearing it, they're making the sound, so all of the senses are engaged. So I would tell the students the sound, having them, focus on my mouth so that they can get clues with articulation and the shape of my mouth. So I might say, spell aw, and they would repeat it. Aw. O spells aw as they're writing. So again, all of those senses are engaged. And this is also building that connection between the sounds and the letters. I won't make you write any, but we would go through a lot of the letters that we had previously learned. So that's a review step. And then after that, we get into our blending drill. And so this is where the students are reading words. Again, this is a review. The first, parts of the lesson are reviews of previous content, because that research shows us that multiple practice opportunities are really important. So in this step, they're seeing the letters and they're matching the sounds to the letters. So for example, there are a couple different types of blending that can be done depending on student needs. You could do a sound by sound blending where they're sounding out each individual sound like this. S, I, k, sick. There's more of a continuous blending where they're continuing that sound and stretching it out into the next one just to kind of make it glide and flow. S, I, k. It's a little bit easier to hear how it goes into a word. And then there's a successive blending where they might just blend two parts together. Sick, sick. So they're breaking it up. So there's different types of blending depending on what the kids need. And so in a blending drill, you can tell that just one part of the word is changing. So they're paying attention to, again, the smallest parts, and they're seeing that words can be manipulated and the sounds can be manipulated to create new words with different meanings. So when you're doing this, if you're reading with your child at home, blending is a really good strategy. One of the most important cues that you can give them is to look at the whole word and sound it out. We don't want them guessing. We don't want them looking at pictures and guessing. That's something that we've moved away from because that's not supported by research and the science of reading. So if your child gets to an unfamiliar word, you can tell them to look at the whole word and then go sound by sound to sound it out. And then this ends our kind of review part of our lesson, and then we go into the new concept. So this is the new instruction that the students are getting for the day, and this would also be the final step of a first day. So we kind of do all of our review, end with our new concept and some practice, and then the following day we'll go into it again. So they're getting multiple days of it. So the new concept would be introduced, and it's really explicit. So all of the teachers at every school have the same kind of script to introduce it so that nothing's being left out. And so today in this first grade lesson, it's a lesson on SH, the sound sh. So I would tell the students that a consonant digraph is when two consonants come together to make one sound. And so I kind of would just go through and explain each step. We focus on articulation, the way that our tongues and our voices and our mouths are shaped that help create the sounds. Drawing attention to that can be important for making the sound, for hearing the sound. Just again, building all of those connections. And then we add our spelling to a sound wall. And sound walls can look different in different classrooms. This is kind of a close-up picture of the K sound, whatever the concept is for the day. We would just add our spelling to it. So if we're learning about the CK spelling, for k, we could add that spelling so that when students are trying to spell a word, breaking it down and match which spelling pattern they should use, they can physically see the options here, or they can, tell by the mouth shape. There's a lot that we focus on with the articulation and using the sound wall. That's not quite the U-Fly one. Like I said, there are many different ones, but it's kind of what works for your students and what they're comfortable with. So that's an important tool that they can use when they're reading, but also when they're writing. And then after our new concept, the students would practice writing the letters, again with a whiteboard, focusing on the structure and the lines like Mrs. M shared at the last station. And then the students are going to practice writing words and reading words as well, just with a new concept. So if our new concept for this lesson is the digraph SH, I would walk them through some examples. So I do sh, d, shed, and then as a class we would have many practice opportunities together. So I'll have you try blending a few with me. So sound, word,
Shop.
Good. So we would practice reading many practice opportunities of the words, and you can tell that it mixes it up. Sometimes the digraph's at the beginning, sometimes it's at the end. And then again, we would kind of end there with our day 1 and go into our day 2 the following day. But since I have you all here, we're going to jump in and just do an overview of day 2. So we'd start by refreshing and going over our new concept again, which would be the SH for this lesson. And then the students are going to be engaged with some word work, which is usually in the form of the magnetic letters. So
Thank you.
I'll walk you through how the kids can do word chains. I know Mrs. M went over some of the word chains at her station too. But for this, they're working on connecting sounds and letters. So if the first word is shin, the students would be segmenting or breaking down that word into its individual sounds. So sh. And then we could ask, how do you spell that sound? Sh. What letters? To see if they...
SH.
SH, very good. What's the next sound that you hear in the middle of the word? I. How do you spell I? Very good. I spells I. And what's the final sound that you hear? Good job. How do you spell N?
N.
N. Good job. So does yours match mine?
No.
Oh,
No. Definitely not. Now it does.
There it is. Perfect.
Look.
So now we give them, yes, perfect, since that's one sound.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I would give them another prompt. So change shin to ship. And they could segment it again. Ship. What did you change? What sound? What did you change, Mr. Hoback?
B.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
did you
How do you spell it?
How did I spell it? SH.
No, the P.
Oh, the P.
Yeah.
P.
You changed the N to a P?
And the P.
All right.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Good job. And let's read the word. We could sound it out. Ship. Ship. Okay. We could also tell them just to change one sound. So change the I to an O. And read that word. What word did you make?
Shop.
Good, shop. So we're going back and forth between spelling and reading. And again, it walks them through maybe at least a dozen of those practice words, which is great. And then after that step, the teacher would go into teaching heart words. You might have heard them called sight words, power words, high frequency words. There's lots of different terms that can be used for them. But in the U-Fly lesson, they're irregular words. Some words are temporarily irregular, meaning that they just haven't learned that pattern for how to read or spell them yet. And some words are just irregular in the English language. They don't follow the pattern that you would expect them to follow. So for example, if the word is want, if I segment it into the individual sounds, I hear w, ah, n, t. So I hear 4 sounds. The first sound is w. How do you expect w to be spelled?
W.
With a W, exactly. What about ah?
O.
You would expect it to be spelled with an O because that's what you hear, but that's actually an A, and that's going to be the heart part that we have to remember by heart. And how do you expect to see an N sound?
N.
N. How about T?
T.
T, good. So this is the heart part that we have to remember. So the students are reading and spelling the heart words. And then in the final step of the lesson, it goes into the connected text. So this is the most important and kind of culminating part of the 2 days of the lesson because the whole goal is to be able to read and spell. And so they're putting it into practice. So they're going to apply their learning with some decodable sentences. And that means those are sentences that they can sound out based on either the phonics rules that they've already learned or by the heart words that they've already learned as well. So for this, they're reading. They get multiple sentences to read together. The teacher could read, the students could echo. It just depends kind of what you build up for and then when you release those supports. So we could read this one together if you'd like.
Yes.
Word.
She
Word.
goes
Word.
To.
Word.
the
Great. Now this word has our new concept, so let's sound this one out together.
Up.
Shop. Word.
at
Word.
10.
Good. Let's read it together because we want reading to sound like we're speaking.
She goes to the shop at 10.
Good. When does she go to the shop?
10.
10. Good. Yeah. So we're reading for meaning, and after that they would write some sentences as well, and then we would put it all together in a connected text. These are the decodable stories that come with each lesson. These are kind of like the training wheels. So this is something that they should be able to sound out and use their previously learned concepts. And the goal is to become automatic in reading these, so we want them reading them more than once, going through, and because at first they may expend a lot of energy just trying to sound out each individual word. Maybe it's a little choppy, but then when they're going back through and practicing, it becomes more automatic, and that's really the goal. We want the reading to be automatic so then they can let their energy go toward understanding what's happening in the story, and they don't get so bogged down in trying to sound out the individual words. So that would wrap up a UFly lesson over 2 days. So kudos to all of you for being super students. But just a couple takeaways, if you can remember that reading is not a natural process, so you do have to explicitly teach the brain the letters and the sounds and making those connections. And then if your child encounters a word that's unfamiliar to them, just tell them to look at the entire word and sound it out to the best that they can. Might not always work because not every word follows those phonics patterns, but for the most part, the words are going to be decodable for them. So that's all I have. But if
Thank
you have
you.
any questions specifically about this, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you.
I know most of you, but my name's Emily Tucci. I'm a third grade teacher at Chatham Elementary. Nice to meet you. Nice that you guys came. So we're going to talk about the other piece of the literacy puzzle, which is the reading and writing side. You've heard about phonics. So our district uses ARC, which is the American Reading Company curriculum. And the big pieces of ARC are that we do a lot of researching, we do a lot of writing, and we help the students to develop a love of reading. And so we do that in a few different ways. So The three areas of ARC that are important to know are the research lab, the writing lab / research lab, the color levels. So the color levels have to do with their just right reading level. We don't use grade levels for their reading, we use the colors. It helps them to find their just right book. It's not too easy, not too hard, that they can read independently. Every student starting in 3rd grade has a power goal of something that they're working on. In their reading, it might be sounding out the endings of words, it might be finding the main idea in the story that they're reading, and they usually they should know their power goal. There might be a bulletin board in your student's classroom that talks more about power goals. I have some more info about the color levels. The yellow and green level, that's when you're building the foundations. Lots of phonics skills are in those books. Then it shifts to blue and red, which are building stamina, longer sentences. White, black, and orange are diving into more complex vocabulary. It's deeper comprehension. Those are like your chapter books. And then once you get past that there might be like purple. Those are like tricky chapter books. But the best part is that they get really excited about moving through the different colors. They get excited about seeing their type of book change. So it really, again, goes back to being enthusiastic about reading and developing that love of reading. I'm sure that you've all seen the different units of study that we focus on. A lot of our units of study are research labs, so it crosses different curriculums, so curricular areas. So we're doing, in literacy, we might be focusing on a social studies. Thanks. You're welcome. Dr. Kelly. So we might be focusing on like a science area. For example, this is all of the grades. So if we're looking at 3rd grade, we spent the fall writing our own chapter books, Jack and Annie, the Magic Treehouse books. We look at Dinosaurs After Dark and Nights at Dawn, and they get really excited. We're focusing again at developing that love of reading, but also talking about citing evidence from the text, which is a theme that continues through the whole year. And then it shifts into a weather and climate research project where everybody has their own weather hazard. And we have books that you'll see that are leveled in the different colors, so that no matter somebody's reading color level, they have a material that they can use that they can actually read independently. Then we move into traditional tales where they're writing their own Cinderella stories, which we're just finishing up this week in Chatham. And then we move into our final unit of marine life, which again brings in some of that science into the literacy block. In the other grades, there are different focuses, but the same is true where we have those zoology, entomology, and then ecology across all the grade levels. Let's see, and then I have that on the second page for you as well. Why we focus on one topic, so we usually spend 6 to 9 weeks depending on each unit. That gives kids plenty of time to become an expert at their specific area. Especially in the upper elementary grades, there's a big shift from, instead of learning to read, they're reading to learn. So they're trying to find information and support their ideas, again, with evidence. That's really important. They become experts at different vocabulary terms. We have many different times that we review either the same story or similar stories. So for example, in 3rd grade, we've been in our traditional tales and world cultures. So this anthology has many different variations of the Cinderella story. So we read the traditional, then we read a different variation. For example, we might read Ye Shen, which is a different variation, or Famous Footprints. We do comparing, contrasting the different variations, and then ultimately they write their own version of a Cinderella story. They're very engaged. They love being the person in the room that knows everything about their concept. If it's a research project, like the hurricane people get really excited, or on their being the expert on hurricanes. Ways that you can help at home. You can we want them to read, yes, but reading with your child is really important too. Reading to them is a great way to read together to, again, develop a love of reading. Especially harder books for them is when they're young. It's a great way to explore books together. Taking time to check their reading logs each night. They should be filling it out themselves, no matter the grade level, because it helps to develop some ownership. And then once they get further along, they're an expert at filling it out. And then it's really important to keep it positive. If they're stuck on a word, try to prompt them to sound it out. And if they can't, you just tell them the word. We want them to like reading. And then I just put in some information about the practice field of homework. So, the goal is to be reading for 2 steps a night, 30 minutes of reading. Again, that can be reading anything. You could read the signs on the highway to hockey practice. You could read anything. The menu at dinner, that is still reading. So those are the big pieces of ARC. And that's all I have for you. I'm short and sweet. So the next step is the books of ARC, which are across the way.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do we have a specific program that we use for handwriting that's being done every day?
Yeah, so we use Handwriting Without Tears. In the younger elementary school grades, it's focused on print, like normal handwriting, and then once you get into 3rd grade, we do cursive.
Are they doing like, do I have a 1st grader, 3rd grader?
Mm-hmm.
Are you teaching them? Like, are there certain chunks of the day that they're doing handwriting? Like actual, you know what I mean? You demonstrating or like Elise in kindergarten, is it really explicit instruction?
Actually, 2 times. It's
During
a
the
separate
youth-
handwriting lesson using Handwriting Without Tears, but also every time in that UFI lesson that you
Yes.
just saw with Caitlin, every time that you're writing, we are correcting in the moment that handwriting, making sure that you're using the same strokes that you were taught in the lesson. And there is a piece in the lesson too, when we introduce the new concept, where we're again showing those strokes and the kids are practicing that. So
And we use
get
the
2
private
doses.
speech to the way to form this different letters is across the board the same.
Can I ask one more question?
Please.
Right, it's my big area I get worried about for my kids. One of my concerns I've had for my kids over the years is the use of Chromebooks in writing. And if we're losing, like, one of the things I notice all my kids do not do well is capitals and punctuation. And one of my thoughts in the back of my head is are we using Chromebooks and they edit? Do you know what I mean? There's like spell check and things like that. And I just wonder, like, is there a good balance in the classroom currently of just journal writing, paper writing, and not Chromebook writing?
Yeah, so at both Chatham and Harwich, it's called the Daily Deep Dive, where it's 5 minutes of everybody in the entire school is writing at the same time. Every day there's a different prompt, and they all... Oh, okay. In our school, it's all the same, sorry. And I can speak only to Chatham. In Chatham, it's at the same time. And they all have their own journal that they've decorated nobody is checking it per se, because the point is that we want them to get their thoughts out and not worry about the spelling, because it's not necessarily like part of our writing block. But it's an opportunity to write in a way that works best for them. They could write a list, they can write many sentences, they can write 1 sentence. But then outside of that time, especially in 3rd grade, we work really hard at the writing process. We use lots of graphic organizers to organize our thoughts. We go back, we use the acronym CUPS and ARMS. ARMS is for revising, CUPS is for capitalization, understanding, and punctuation. Am I right? I got it. And then ARMS is addition, adding, revising, those kinds of things. Okay. And so specifically in 3rd grade, we spend a lot of time, drafting, organizing, because they're writing much larger pieces of writing.
And is
I
that
just
writing
add in-
paper to pencil? I'm sorry to like
Yes.
keep,
Yep.
yes, okay.
Yes,
that's what
so
okay.
that's what does it ultimately end up potentially, sometimes is it a type thing? Yes.
okay.
But does it start the drafting process as paper? Yes. It starts as
that-
paper and
That's
usually,
new, so like, Emily, that's what they're doing on the third grade level, but we're also doing that on the kindergarten level
Yep.
now, and the first grade level, where we're using, first grade, we use CAPS at the beginning of the year, which is capitals, appearance, which is having the spaces between the words, and so we're all doing that so that by the time they get up to Emily in third grade, they'll have the capitals down, which they haven't in the past, and punctuation and all those little nitty gritty of sentence.
and even in second grade, we talked about, what a topic sentence is and what your key details are, and then a wrap-up sentence, which we revisit in third grade, but we draft, like the bug project that we did in second grade. They draft their whole project, even though it's a PowerPoint. They start it using the graphic organizers to organize their thoughts and do all their research, and then they take the research and put that on a different graphic organizer to form a paragraph, and then it gets typed just to polish it.
I think we recognize too that writing is really difficult
Yes.
for students, and it's really difficult for teaching students how to write as well. We've had some really great conversations and saying that it's not just the classroom teacher's responsibility for this. We, in the winter, on our PD day, we had the entire school sat down together and we talked about what expectations for writing were at every grade level, because writing happens in STEM class and writing happens in music and art as well. And so really making sure that everyone has clear, consistent benchmarks at each grade level has been super helpful. We've been using the COPS and the AM and the ARMS, or CAPS, depends on the grade level, that acronym across the building, and we're seeing a huge difference in our students' writing. We've been really focusing on writing complete sentences with capitalization and punctuation that's correct, and really just fine-tuning our sentence structure right now to then move into paragraphs. But if they can't write a sentence, then they're not going to write paragraphs.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of took a step back and said, we're really going to focus on these areas and build up their skills, and we're seeing a lot of confidence in their writing. With the daily deep dive, the students get to share on Fridays in their classrooms with one another, and then some come down and share with the whole school, and it's a really exciting thing. And I have noticed that some kids, when they come down to share to my office, if they notice that they had errors, they are like, really like, oh, I should have put a period here. And that's great that you caught that now. So I think they're becoming more aware of their writing and how it looks, and it needs to be read by others, not just their own, which is exciting.
And on the flip side of that, also connecting writing to how we speak, speaking in complete sentences and learning sentence structure that way. So we've really been emphasizing when we ask a question that you are answering it in a complete sentence. So how are you? Well, I'm feeling fine today. Like just really speaking in complete sentences.
Brought some examples of the books that your kids are using in the classroom. As Emily kind of said, there's different books for different reasons. We have our whole class texts, like Emily showed you with the anthology. But then when the small groups are working on their power goals, we have texts that maybe a group of 6 students who might be working on the same goal might be reading a book together as a small group. So your student might read a whole group text with the whole class, specialized text for their reading level and their reading ability and what they're working on for their power goals. And then on the other table over there are some examples of the leveled readers for the content area, so for the research. So I heard Emily saying in third grade we have a wide span of reading levels. Kids can go from what we call like a 2B all the way up to white and black levels, which is about a 4 to 5 level span. We have books on those topics at every level for those kids, so the kids are getting a just right book for the research that they need to do and not appearing out, it doesn't make them stick out that they have to read something different. So these are the books you can see, and then I brought also these are just reading level books that we have in the classroom. Kids know that if they're a white level reader, they can go and select any book from this box and it will be it will be at their level. And they're new titles, they're fresh titles, there's a mix of fiction and nonfiction, there's graphic novels, there's short stories, there's a little bit of everything, so hopefully we're finding something that kids want to read, right? That's, I think, the number one important thing, is we want to find stuff that kids want to read. So you can take a peek, look at these, you'll see there's some really beautiful titles, some great materials, lots of pictures. Everything has been published pretty recently, and they're constantly updating the collection, and we're replenishing our collection every year so that they can get more titles to look at, and they shouldn't be bored. There should always be something for them to read. So, yeah. And then, oh, this is an example too. At the younger grades, we are investing in decodable books, which are books that focus on the particular phonics lesson that they're working on. So these are all OG, words that end in OG, and so this is a great little title for that. So we have lots of different types of books for all different reasons, really putting them in the kids' hands. You can tell by our Scholastic Book Fair, you can tell by library class, our kids love to read. It's so important to them, and I think that's job well done, I guess. If they like to read, that's all we can ask for. So feel free to look through the piles. But yeah, that's kind of what we had about books for you. Do you have any questions about the books or anything like that?
No. The levels are funny. They all know, I don't know about your kids,
Yes,
but my
they
kids
do.
know the levels of everyone in their class.
Yes. Yeah.
And they get excited. I shouldn't say that in a bad way.
No,
Like
yes.
so-and-so moved to the black, or they're very like aware and get excited about it.
It is. It's
which is
really,
fun.
and I think Emily was saying too, sometimes the genres tend to change a little bit too when they get up into the higher, I mean, this is a purple level, so this is like, you know, late fourth grade, our high readers, and there's just amazing books, and it's just exciting. It's exciting to see them get excited about reading. So, yeah.
Are these styles of books available at both schools?
Yes. We use the same books, and the research books are the same for both schools. And then when we order the independent reading books, one classroom might have totally different books in a white box than the other one, and so that means we can switch the boxes. So if the kids have read this Magic Tree House book like 3 times, then we can bring in another box, and it has all new titles and different subjects that they can read, which is keeps them reading, keeps them on their toes, right? So,
Very good.
all right, awesome. All right, Dr. Millen, do you want to say anything to close up?
So, first of all, thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. Do you have any questions? I mean, the team is all here. Do you have any additional questions for them? Okay, so I have an email already queued up for you to give you the UFly website. I can't remember who asked for that. And I also put in our title information to do that summer work for the I don't know what they call UFly parent sheets, so that we put the rule up top and stuff like that. So that's great information for us. So I appreciate that. We have some Monomoy gear here. We also have a couple of door prizes. Where's Joy with the door prizes? We have door prizes for you that you're now going to get back. And over on this side, please select one beautiful picture book since you attended the Parent University. So thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Very good. Yes.